Do you ever catch yourself reminiscing about older cultivars? I'm talking ones like Trainwreck, Bubba, OG, Afghani. If so, this one's for you. Stay tuned. Yo! Welcome to Non-News Flowers, where we talk everything from germination, cultivation, post-harvest, and more. And today, we're going to be talking about growing strains from the 90s and a couple strains that I have growing right now in my grow tent that I'm really excited to share with y'all. So let's get into it. First and foremost, I'd like to go over the genetic lineage and the background of each of the two cultivars, just to give a little bit of context to each of the ones that I'm growing right now. So firstly, let's go with the BC Afghani. I've shared it on my shorts a couple times already. I'm sure a couple of you have seen it. The BC Afghani is a cross between a hash plant that was introduced to BC in the 90s and a BC Kush that was very popular in that region at the time as well. And I believe the lineage for the BC Kush is grapefruit crossed with an unknown Kush, but yeah, it's a little bit hazy in terms of what the exact lineage is. However, those who know, very popular at the time. You had to definitely pay a premium to even see some of that around and know the right people, but that stuff would stink even through like a triple bagged seal, and there was no getting around it, especially being from that time period. You wanted to be careful, but those who were able to come across it, those who know that it's a really special one, and especially at that time period, there's a lot of nostalgia behind it. So I'm really excited that she's part of the cross that I grew. She's currently hanging right now for a 10 to 14 dry period. I'm actually going to be making a full step-by-step breakdown on how I like to dry and cure. I did already make a video kind of briefly going over it, but I like to go specifically over this harvest and kind of show you what the step-by-step process is and how I go about each part, and hopefully this can help some of you who are dealing with things like hay terps or like, you know, lack of aroma and taste and things of that nature. So I'm really hoping that helps you guys out. So if you're interested in something like that, definitely leave a like down below and drop a comment if you have any suggestions regarding any type of content that you'd like to see in the future. I'd love to hear them out. Now moving forward with the second cultivar, we're going to be looking at the Tom Ford Rockstar. Now this one was popular a little bit more in the early 2000s as opposed to the 90s, and me being at the age that I am, turning 32 later this year, it's definitely a nostalgic one for me. And it's really interesting actually, because the Tom Ford part of the cross, the Tom Ford Pink Kush to be exact, is a Death Bubba cross Pink Kush. And if you know, you know. The Death Bubba on its own is already a very interesting cross. It's a cross between Death Star and Bubba Kush. It's very Bubba forward. It has a very strong coffee Kush smell with the earthy finish in the background. Really nice stuff. And so when you combine that with the Pink Kush that was very popular in the early 2000s as well, you get an absolute monster of a strain. And now when you cross that Tom Ford Pink Kush to the Maple Ridge cut of Rockstar, you're setting yourself for some stanky stuff. This stuff is very aromatic. You have to watch out and make sure that your carbon filters are working properly, otherwise the whole block's gonna know. The interesting thing about the Maple Ridge cut of Rockstar is that it's a phenotype that is especially known for its aromatic, pungent earthiness and skunky tones. Rockstar in itself is already a strain that's known for being very loud out of the bag, even after being sealed multiple times, but the Maple Ridge cut just takes it another level. So when you're crossing something like Tom Ford Pink Kush to the Maple Ridge cut of Rockstar, it's just an absolute game changer, and she's definitely known for getting those black kind of purple tones at the end of flower. So I'm glad to see that, because it just shows that the genetic lineage is the correct one, and it's one that I've sourced correctly. There's so many white label seeds and even clones nowadays where people are mislabeling them and stuff, and so you're getting certain cuts, you're getting certain seeds, you're getting certain genetics that just aren't the actual thing. And we could make a whole nother video on that topic, but at the end of the day, it's super important that you source your genetics correctly, because it's the difference between you growing Lord knows what and the medicine that you're looking for and that really works for you. So make sure you're doing your research and growing what you're actually looking for. Now to speak further on both of these cultivars, the terpene expression is super interesting on both of them, especially because a lot of the modern hybrids nowadays seem to cater candy flavors and more of that desserty sweet profile with lack of earthiness and things of that nature. And so we're getting very interesting aromas. With the BC Afghani, she has more of the spiced milk cake kind of terp to her with some earthiness in the background, very pungent as well. That pungentness is very classic to how a Kush normally is, but it's a little bit different with a bit of fruitiness and a little bit of that spiced milk cake, which absolutely is amazing to me. It really reminds me of that old school hash plant. It just has such an interesting flavor profile to it, and so I'm hoping through the dry and cure, we're really going to see some of those expressions come out, and some of those expressions of the BC Kush as well, because again, the BC Kush is absolutely phenomenal. Some of the best tasting bud I've ever had the pleasure of trying. And if you ever get to come across any BC Kush, some real BC Kush, man, definitely jump on it and try it out. It's an experience worth having. And then when we're looking at the aromas of Tom Ford Rockstar, man, we're looking at some gassy aromas with some cushiness, some earthiness, little to no sweetness at all. Maybe a little bit of sweetness coming from the Pink Kush, because the Pink Kush is known to have like a sweet vanilla undertone to it. But aside from that, she's raunchy, she's stanky. She has this kind of almost like vinegar cucumber smell to her in the backdrop, which just, I mean, every time I smell it, I'm like, oh my God, you know, like I just can't wait to sample her and try her out. When we're looking at the effects of both of these strains, BC Afghani is second to none. Definitely is an indica, but unlike most indicas, it doesn't have this lazy, lethargic, like kind of like slumped feel to it. It has more of a thought-provoking, uplifting feel without it being too racy like a lot of sativas are. It still has that indica profile where you can definitely taste it, but it has that effect where you're more relaxed, little to no anxiety, but it's still uplifting enough for you to have thought-provoking conversations, ideas, and for you to be functional throughout your day, which I absolutely love because I am a very functional, busy person. And as much as I love to have a heavy indica, it definitely just has me feeling lazy at the end of the day, or even in the middle of the day. Heck, even in the morning, I've had a heavy indica and just gone right back to bed. So that's just something I want to avoid, and the BC Afghani checks those boxes for me. So that's one reason that I grew that in particular. Just aside from the fact that I love old school strains, the effects and the flavor profile for the BC Afghani are just ones that really work for me. And that's why I chose to grow it, man. I just want to, you know... But yeah, man, moving on to that Tom Ford Rockstar, that is one where it's definitely going to be more of that lethargic, slumpy, kind of heavy feel. But we're not looking at that traditional lazy feel that you get from a modern hybrid, where there's almost little to no euphoria. The Tom Ford Rockstar is actually known for having a very euphoric effect, almost like a dreamlike state. And it's just one of those experiences where no matter how long of the day you've had, no matter how stressful things have been, you have some of that Tom Ford Rockstar, you're going to be good to go and prepared for whatever you have coming next. And now that I've broken down the genetic lineage, the aromas, and the effects, I'm going to go over a couple clips of the grow and just share some of the thoughts that I've had throughout the process. Let's get into it. Let's start with the veg cycle. Between day 15 and 30 from seed, both of these cultivars grew at a fairly regular pace, even with the Bubba Kush genetics and the Tom Ford Rockstar. But something very interesting happened in this grow that's never happened before. The Tom Ford Rockstar was stinking in veg. I'm talking earthy, cushy, stanky, danky. I couldn't believe it, but the leaves themselves were just reeking up a storm, and I loved it. The BC Afghani had a piney aroma on the stem rub, but nothing too crazy. As we got into flowering, the real characteristics start to present themselves for both cultivars. The BC Afghani started to build an unreal coat of resin on her flowers, glistening and absolutely sticky to the touch, while producing a fragrantly sweet and spicy aroma and an earthy, pungent undertone. The Tom Ford Rockstar, on the other hand, decided to stretch upwards, and while she didn't branch out like the BC, she stacked up on her flowers for sure. I still don't believe she'll yield anything crazy, but I grew her for her terp profile, not commercial viability. At the moment, the BC Afghani is drying under specific conditions, while the Tom Ford Rockstar finishes up. I'll definitely be providing an update on these two once they're dried and cured, and so we can have a final discussion on flavor profile and thoughts on this run. I'll also be exploring older genetics a lot more and making more content around it, so if you like old school cultivars, hit that subscribe button. Hope you'll have a good one. Peace.